Greetings. Okay, so we're still talking about factoring strategies. We've already gone through the GCF, which we always check first to see if there's a GCF, and we employ that strategy. After that, we look into the next strategy, which I call X and X, and you'll see why in a minute. Remember that all quadratics are written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are the coefficients. And if you write it in descending order, the leading coefficient is what we will call A. X and X can only be used if the leading coefficient, or A, is 1. So you can see in this case, x squared minus x minus 12, the leading coefficient, since there's nothing there, we know it's a 1. That's the same thing as 1x squared. B is -1, and C is -12, which will help us to know this later. So the first thing you're going to do is, you see, since it's A equals 1, you can try the X and X strategy. First step, break it down into 2 parentheses and put an X in the beginning of each one. 2 sets of parentheses, put an X here and an X here. That's why I call it X and X. After I do this, I'm going to write down the factors of C. Okay, C is the last number. -12 is my last number. Let's write down the factors here. Because 12 is negative, I know I'm going to need a positive and a negative factor. So let's write them all down. I'm going to start with 1. 1 and -12, -1 and 12. Right? Both of those multiplied together equal -12. 2 and -6, -2 and 6. Okay? 3 goes in. 3 and -4, -3 and 4, and I'm at 3 and 4. I have covered all of the factors of -12. Next step, add each set of factors together. So 1 and -12 is -11, -1 and 12 is +11, 2 minus 6 is -4, -2 and 6 is 4, 3 minus 4 is -1, -3 and 4 is +1. Okay, easy enough, right? Choose the sum that equals B. B is that middle coefficient. The middle coefficient, do you remember what we said B was? -1. So -1 is here. So I'm going to choose -1, put these 2 numbers in the parentheses. I have a 3 and a -4. So I'm going to put a +3 and a -4. That is it. I'm going to do one more thing to make sure I'm right, though, and this is the best thing about this whole process, is I can FOIL it out, which we learned before, to check my answer. So let's do FOIL first, outside, inside, last, collect like terms, and this equals this, the original problem, so I know I'm right. And that's how you do X and X.